Join us this week as we say goodbye to Brisbane and sail north to the Capricorn coast for the winter season. Later we brought in a beautiful mackerel. So.
Yeah.
Are you filming?
Yep. Welcome to the winter of free range sailing. Before we launch into it, we just want to thank a couple of people. Who are they?
Jess and Adrian from Switch Sails.
Yeah, Jess and Adrian from Switch Sails. They've been watching free range sailing, and they came down, and in exchange for watching us for so many episodes, they wanted to do us a favour, and they they blew us away with how generous they were. They came down, they laughed at the UV repair job we did on our head sail. So they gave us a whole new UV strip. They overhauled our mainsail, new slides, cut some hollows in the luff and in the luff tape. They put all new luff tape, made it almost a new mainsail. Adrian thought that it was about 6 years old, so you've seen that we've used our gear pretty tough.
Where they put the battens, they put new tape where the battens are, is it?
No, the chafe guards.
Chafe guards.
They put some chafe guards on the battens. And made us a brand new sail cover.
Yeah.
So just amazing people. And it was hard. We were hard pushed even to buy them a beer in return. So Adrian and Jess, thank you very much. And if you're in the Brisbane area, good luck looking them up to do your sails. I understand they're pretty busy because they're just good at what they do and they're really nice people. So Switch Sails, if you can book them in, then good luck. They do a really great job.
After weeks on land, it felt so good to be rugged up under the Dodger, watching the sunrise under sail. This has easily become my favourite time of the day to be on watch. We left Brisbane yesterday. We were going at a cracking pace, like 6 or 7 knots. It was great fun, but now we're just sort of sailing downwind, and we're not going quite so fast. We're going about 3 knots now. There's only about 8 knots of breeze. So.
Yeah, our 10 to 15 knots of breeze that they promised us is it's not materialised again.
Oh well, at least we're not close hauled.
Yeah.
It makes a bit of a change.
So we did take some time out, and we were hanging around the city, and we didn't do a lot of filming in Brisbane just because we're free range sailing. All right, we don't really, I don't know if we can show you that much of a city. I don't know if we're city people, but we did have a bit of a look around.
Yeah.
But more importantly, we got some jobs done.
Mm-hmm.
So chief among them was a holding tank. And we had to install a new toilet as well. Our old one was it was done. It was 10 years old. The motor was pretty clapped out. And I'm actually quite surprised at the difference that's made. So we can have a bit of a look at that. So we've built a new holding tank. We've got the intake seacock on the hull skin fitting open all the time now. So we have this good high quality ball valve right here. So if you're going to use this toilet, you could come in now. We've got a safety pin here to make sure, because if this is open, the boat could potentially, if it was rocky enough, fill up with water, slop over and actually start to take on seawater. So we've got this valve, we've got the safety pin. You open this, you push the button. Sorry about that loud noise. And when you do, that will flush waste up this 1-inch hose and goes into the tank. Now if you wanted that to be a storage, like a holding tank, all you need to do is go next door, make sure that the large seacock on this 1.5-inch discharge line is shut, and then this tank will just fill up. And it's a bit over 30 litres, so it's not a high volume tank. It lasts us about a week. You know, this will fill up, and if you just want to empty the holding tank, you don't have to pump it or anything else like that. You just open the seacock and gravity will drain it, because this tank is built above sea level. We've got up here, like this is a 1-inch inlet hose, and that's why I've chosen 1.5-inch outlet hose, just so there's absolutely no chance of a blockage. You should never say that on a boat, I've just jinxed myself. But so this line goes out, this line goes up for a suction facility if we ever need to use one. But if we look up here, there's also a 1/2-inch breather, and it's got a ball valve on it. What we can do, that breather's just generally open, but what we can do is, if there's a blockage in this line, we can actually shut that breather, open up this, and use this pump to pressurize the actual holding tank. And if there's any blockage through here, pop, it pushes it through. We've already tested that, and it worked really, really well. The other thing that breather can do is, if you're at a suction facility, obviously you'd leave that open, and you'd get the suction truck or whatever it is hose, you'd connect it here through the deck fitting that we've got out there, and it will suck this tank down, but there'll actually still be a little bit of waste down in here. What you can do is close the breather, open up that seacock to let seawater through this line, and then as the suction facility is pulling, they'll actually pull clean seawater through here and clean your hose as well. It only needs to be a short burst, not very much at all. So that's really good. The discharge and the tank essentially acts as a vented loop, so we can't get back siphoning back through here to sink our boat. If we leave this open, there's a potential for water to find its way into the boat, but there's a good visual indicator that it's shut, and you know, water levels down here, so there's the potential.
Yeah, but just being able to like turn it on and off when you're doing your business, instead of having to go into the other, like going into a locker and opening and shutting the seacock, makes a big difference. Yeah,
it absolutely makes a big difference. So that's the toilet, and the reason why we had to build a holding tank is the marine pollution regulations have a bit to say in Australian waters about where you can discharge and how you can discharge human waste. So it has to be macerated, it has to be chewed up into little bits. And usually out in the open sea, you know, away from land, it's fine to discharge it. You know, the regulating body knows that the ocean can deal with a little bit of chewed up poo, but they don't want you to do it in enclosed waters and near aquaculture facilities or near people in the water. And we're sort of down with that, aren't we?
It's a nice courtesy not to flush your toilet when there's other. Even if there's other boats kind of nearby, it's nice to save it until you go out sailing and you move off. Yeah. And
we're also going to be going into some coral reef lagoons, and we're in a more heavily used area at the moment. So we really want to build that holding tank. We didn't want to flush our waste into places where a lot of other people are, and it might be already under pressure. And just as a common courtesy, even if they're on jet skis, we're not gonna flush around people. So we've got our holding tank, but the other thing that I popped in was a couple of water bladders. So they're pretty good, aren't they, Pascy?
They are. They're really, really happy with the result. We've got a little bit more water now than what we had before.
Yep.
But the previous tank, perhaps you can explain a bit more about what was going on.
I'm not entirely sure. The repair that we did was still sound, and I looked at it and I checked everywhere. There was no cracking. It hadn't come away. It was still strong as anything. But I think the actual bulkhead that made the aft section of the water tank, I think it might have started to delaminate after 50 years, and water was actually coming up through capillary action and still leaking through there. It was just the damnedest thing, you know. So instead of attacking it all over again, what I did is I've turned that tank into forward tool storage, and the 2 lockers under the bed, I've actually chucked bladders in there. So we've gone from 170 litres of water up to about 210 litres just in the bladders. So we've still got the 40 litres emergency, and we carry 2 jerry cans that we usually use the water maker with. So that's pretty good. We've increased our water storage, but we did lose a collision bulkhead in the fact that if we'd had a hole in the hull where the water was stored, we'd lose our fresh water, but it would actually contain the seawater. But, you know, when I was making the holding tank, I took this core out of the deck. So, you know, my thumb is about 1 inch. So you can see that that's a hell of a core to come just out of a deck. And the front part of the hull is built fairly strongly as well. If you watched before, we saw there'd been a repair job, and I actually think that was done in a yard. I reckon a forklift drove into this boat at one stage. It didn't look like an underwater, just where it was and the really pointy nature of the injury. Unless they just jammed into a shipping container at 7 knots, I don't know how else you could do that.
After the calm weather on our sail up from Brisbane, the winds boosted on our arrival at Lady Musgrave Lagoon, which meant we could sail in through the reef entrance under head sail.
Well, it's brekkie time at Chateau Marul, and welcome to our castle. The weather report says that the wind is going to increase, not decrease. So we're out at the reef at the moment. Well, not at the reef, we're out in the Capricorn Bunker group. We came to look for some manta rays. But it looks like the wind's going to boost up over the next few days. So we're going to go to Pancake Creek. What do you think, Pascy?
Yep, sounds good. I don't want to be here with 25 knots and there's possible thunderstorm tonight, so... Can't wait to get my own gear. I'll probably be getting you a new jacket too, huh?
Yeah. How's our speed?
Oh, 7 knots.
There's Pascy out there looking cute as a button in all my wet weather gear. We'll go and see what she has to say.
We just surfed down a wave at 8 knots.
Good deal. Good sailing.
Yeah, I was having a little bit of a mild depression being stuck in that lagoon at Musgrave with the really bad weather and not being able to dive. So I'm feeling much better now.
Going for a nice fast sail is a pretty good antidote, isn't it?
Yeah.
So why did we decide to bail there, Pascy?
Well, we listened to the weather this morning and the winds were set to stay the same or maybe increase, and also there was a chance of a thunderstorm tonight, and the tides are high in the middle of the night, so it's pretty uncomfortable. You can't sleep and it might not be very safe being in that lagoon, so we decided to go to land and go into Pancake Creek.
Yep, it's probably the worst enemy of a cruiser, being stuck in a lagoon anchorage at high tide.
Yeah.
With a 2 metre sea and a thunderstorm coming in.
Right.
So time to bail.
We were trolling around.
Wait a second.
Are you filming?
Yep. So you were saying that it was a bit depressing being in the lagoon before, Pascy. What about, we got fish on board?
Yeah, we got fish on board. When we went up to Lady Musgrave from Brisbane, we were trolling a lure, a Rapala Magnum that we thought was good lure, but it didn't catch anything for 3 days. And then we put Old Faithful, Betsy, the Halco Laser Pro 190.
Yeah, she was a 190.
We put her out, and 20 minutes later we brought in a beautiful mackerel. Later we brought in a beautiful mackerel. So.
Yeah, it was a pretty hard fight too, because we were doing 7 knots.
We were, and we didn't slow down.
What are we doing now?
We're doing 6 to 7.
6 to 7, no, okay.
When we surf down the waves, we go 8.
Nice. Oh, well, we should get into Pancake Creek at a reasonable sort of hour then.
It's saying 3:45.
Yeah, okay. Hopefully we don't do any forward driving because it will be low tide.
Yeah.
We'll see. Nice.
Yeah, really nice. So much flavour. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Free Range Sailing. Please don't forget to hit the like button to help recommend our channel to other like-minded people. This video would not be possible without the generous support from our patrons. If you'd like to find out more about becoming a patron of Free Range Sailing, including some of the rewards we offer, head on over to the description in this video where you will find a link to our Patreon page. As always, thank you for watching and see you next week for more winter adventures.